Hello, everyone. It's Kenny here, Basketball Rewind. I'm here. We are talking about the NCAA tournament. Of course, beyond taking away, we have a new champion for the women's side. Of course, it is not Juju Watkins. I can tell you that for sure. Uh, beyond, who is it?
It's the Connecticut Huskies, man. They're back in their familiar perch. They haven't been there in a few years. I think from a statistical standpoint, or I guess for folks that like to play Trivia Pursuit, if Paige Beckers did not win today, she would have been the first kind of professional player from UConn that's under the Geno reign that would not have had a title. So she was playing like a woman possessed this entire tournament. I mentioned it to our friend Nelly just a few moments ago that I think this is the most dominant college team for a run in the March Madness I've seen since the UNLV team that won the championship back in 1991, I think it was. So like they were beating teams by like 25, 30 points on the regular. I mean, quality teams. It wasn't like, this one wasn't like, Navajo State University or nothing like that. This they were like going in on some folks where it's like, damn, it is a bit of a deflation. That Juju wasn't able to kind of be there for the USC game. That would have been really fun to see how that.
She couldn't even accept her award properly, too.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I think that put a bit of a cloud over the entire tournament, but. Yeah, but Connecticut, full credit to them, man. They played like in the middle of the season, they were kind of fumbling and stumbling, lost like three straight. The defense wasn't there. Page was kind of looking a little out of it. AZ was all right, but they kind of got together, man, and they were doing their thing. So props to the lady Huskies, man, for their big win. And then we'll
Yes.
get to
Well, I mean, we'll just say Dan Hurley did not have a good year. This was not his year this year, and
yeah, in a lot of ways, yes.
he was very angry to say
I
the
don't
least. And
think,
he was a little
yeah,
bit out of pocket, to be honest.
oh, for sure. And I think you hit on an interesting point that people understand the political dynamics within a university.
Yes.
When it comes down to certain things about football versus basketball, or even within basketball, like who's the top dog and stuff of that nature, right?
Yes.
And that was like that with Calhoun and Gino for a lot of years. Their relationship at times it was like okay, other times it wasn't so okay. I don't think Hurley's the type of personality that plays well in the sandbox, probably. So,
No, I don't think so. I'm just thinking if I'm an athletic director at UConn and I got to put up with who am I going to put up with better, Dan Hurley or Gino? I'm
that's
probably
a
going
tough one. But yeah,
I'm probably going to pick the constant in Gino.
yes,
He's the guy, man. He's the best, probably women's basketball coach ever. College basketball.
yeah. He's
That's fair.
he.
Is that fair to say?
No, no, it's very fair to say he's John Wooden on the women's side.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Incredible.
yeah.
It is a draft talk episode in many ways. So, of course, like, comment, and subscribe, people. On your way in, we will be talking about different prospects, but today we're just going to be talking about just the general tournament and kind of doing a recap on some of the guys in the top 10, and anyone that comes to mind, of course. Speaking of UConn, just really quickly, this guy is not in the top 10, but I will just right off rip talk about. Liam McNeely, he did not make it because we were just talking about the Huskies. I think he had an injury midway through the year, and I don't think he ever really quite got his footing back on either end of the floor quite like how it was early on. So we'll see what happens with the combine. I think he should be proud though with how things went out for him personally. I'm not saying that he had like the best game or the worst game. I'm just saying overall his body of work speak for itself. He will be a draftee. I'm not doing this in any particular order. Just kind of like who comes to mind first. So we'll go from there. Coach, your thoughts before we really jump off here. Unless you want to talk about Yegor.
You know what?
Good.
You know what? I'm gonna say something about Yegor, man. I've been killing him a little bit all season, man.
Yes,
I
you
thought
have
in this
been.
case he had a very good tournament.
He did.
I give him his due, man. So you think Beyond's not fair, folks? Hey, man, I give him your boy Denim a lot of love today, man. He had a really good tournament. I still don't see him as the player some people see he is, but like you can see what makes some people excited about him, right? The passing. He played with a little more edge than I saw him for the rest of the other parts of the season. I think learning maybe more the American style of game. He kind of had to get his feet wet. By the time he got the tournament time, he kind of realized, yo, man, it's eat or be eaten.
Yeah, I mean, you could see there's some flash in his game.
Yeah.
He has some tools that allow him to see over the top of the defense and make those beautiful passes. But at the same time, there's a lot of work to do, and
Yes.
you'll have the options and chances to work on it. And I think he'll be an interesting player, interesting prospect for sure.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. Is there anyone, going back to coach here, is there anyone that surprised you this tournament or changed your mind?
I knew he was good, but I think he's better than I thought he was. And that's Jeremiah Fears. To me, I have number 5 on my big board.
Ah,
I was hearing about
pre-
him from our guy
president of the fan
Tyler
club.
As Queen. He's my number 2.
Oh, oh, okay, gotcha.
He's my
Queen,
number
Dad.
2.
All hail the
I
Queen.
know. After last night, it seems there's some more Queen fans. Anyways, I won't get into
Oh,
that.
we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, but no, Jeremiah Fears when he was playing against who did they? It was UConn. Yeah, they were playing UConn, and he just showed that ability of that twitchy guard that typically has success in the NBA. The passing is better than I thought it was too, especially over the screen and roll. He's a pretty good athlete. Like I got him somewhere between like a Dame Lillard. He's not as athletic as Ja Morant, but he's twitchy like that. Like he's more athletic than Dame, but he's not as athletic as Ja. But
Mhm.
he's as tall as Dame. If Ja's about 6'1", 6'2", Dame's about 6'2", 3", and Fears is listed at 6'4", but NBA people lie all the time. He's probably about 6'3". I like Fears. I think he's going to be just a lead guard in the NBA. He's just going to fit well into this new basketball where you don't have to be the biggest, most physical guy in the world, and he's not going to take a ton of punishment. I don't think. If this was 20 years ago, you go take some punishment when he goes into the paint, but in today he can get away with that. So I think some team is going to get a lead guard. He's my second favorite guard, I should say, next to Harper in this draft.
I think he has some of the best handles in the class. I will say that again. I caution people. I caution Raptors fans and anyone, any fan of any NBA team. Be excited about a prospect. Do not overhype the prospect. So someone like Fierce, he might take some time to get adjusted to the NBA speed and physicality. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good player. It just
He's
means
18.
that, exactly, he's 18. It just means that day one, he is not going to be like windmilling and stuff like that. And to be honest, some of the guys that, look good early on and stuff like that, they don't have, they're not able to adjust in the same way. And so, yeah, that's the only thing that I would say. Beyond, just as, piggyback off that, I was just say, if it's probably not the right person to ask this question, but between Fears and someone like a VJ, because say they're like similar in height. Let's just say for argument's sake that they are, because we don't know the combine stats yet. Why are you more leaning towards one over the other, and how do you feel about Fears?
Well, I mean, I watched Fears early in the year. They're playing some games. I think in the tournaments, obviously early in the Big 12 schedule, playing Kansas one night, and I think he's very explosive as a player, as a scorer. Um, to Coach's point, you could see him how he could fit in this league, how the league is, and how it caters towards guards, especially ones that can attack. You could see how he could draw a lot of fouls, and the fact he could be a threat, a 3-level threat right off the bat the moment he walks in the league. My concern with him, I guess, comparing to just the VJ, is that one is we already talked about the defensive prowess from VJ, which makes him very unique in that sense for a perimeter standpoint. But the second thing is Fears, the body's not quite where I want it to be, and I'm a little nervous about that. Like it's a little slight, and I'm just thinking like, we. Like VJ has a physique that's already pretty good, and it's just going to get bigger in this case here when the time comes. And it looks like he can handle the wear and tear. And the fact that he essentially, he only missed one game, I think, when he twisted his ankle in that game against can't remember who they're playing that day. I think they're playing Texas. I think it was Texas, but I can't remember who it was. But yeah, so he has a durability factor that I like, that and a physicality that I like that I don't know. Fears is more finesse, so it depends what you like, And I kind of like a little more beef in there in this case here. When you're going downhill more so than Fears. Fears is gonna be, you know, put it this way: if like VJ is more like hip hop, Fears is more in this case like like an orchestra.
Interesting. I like that. I like that analogy too. Of course, before we go any further, I think it's appropriate to just quickly talk about the two big guys that did not make the tournament but almost did, which is Harper and Ace. I think that they, I don't know if they. Some people say that they benefit from having the time away and having time to work on it, and there's an argument for that. But I do think that they really both wanted to be on the big stage and have a chance to really, prove their talents. And they kind of didn't have a chance to do that because of the nature of their team. So I do want to give a shout out to them. Great individual seasons, great seasons collectively together, some highs, some lows, some tough times. But, it was a very interesting tandem. And, unfortunately, we will not see that tandem again, except for on my 2K game, which I don't know how I did it. I actually that was from before the season even started. Somehow I ended up with both those dudes on the Raptor. The Raptors are doing just fine. So
I can imagine they are.
no doubt. But yeah, going back, another guy I think that did really well was Kasparis. Yakachonis in the tournament. I think he kind of proved his worth. I think again, I hate the hyperbolic nature sometimes where people are like, "Oh, this dude stinks if he does." It's like, no, like the dude's fine. It's you can't take one lens of what you're looking for and apply it to everyone. He is not. He is a very different person. I was gonna say that gone. Yeah, shout out. But I mean, in all seriousness, yeah, like he's very different than a lot of other guys. So I think he did really well. I think he showed that he can be, a lead guard. But I also think he showed his deficiencies and needing a floor spacing big is really where it comes down to. So I get to speed run these because obviously I want to get to the game at hand from yesterday. So stop me at any time. Tre Johnson also left this tournament pretty early, but he had one hell of a couple games. Like was it one or two? I think two games leading into this tournament. So I think he left an impression on people, and I think my variation of he's Ace Bailey, more refined but like shorter, it kind of remains very much true. He's a very interesting prospect. I've gone back and forth. I'll tell you my big board at the end of this, but yeah. So any thoughts on either of those beyond?
Oh, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I think, what they were advertised, those guys actually delivered on what they are about. I think the ruggedness and the physicality of the tournament, I thought Kasparis handled it quite well since he was like a marked man for Illinois. And of course, hey, Johnson is a scorer. He wakes up scoring. Like that's it, right? I don't know why we're in a world now where people actually seem offended that guys actually can score a lot. Like I thought that was the point of sport of basketball, that you try to score more than the other guys. It seems like this is now seen as like almost like some type of like scarlet letters. Like, yeah, you know what? He's a guy who likes to score a lot. It's like, yeah, what's the problem with that? Is that what we want?
Hey, I did.
Yeah.
What about what about Harper? Harper likes to score. I'm just saying.
Exactly. No, nothing wrong with scoring. No. My point is like the role you put him in, but I never said like, no, I don't want him to score. I was like, heck yeah, like score. That's my point. And I find it interesting you compared him to Ace Bailey because he's another guy. I guess this type of kind of like this type of like.
That's my comparison. Is this
where it's like, well, I mean, he does like to score a lot. It's like, yeah, what's the problem with that? That's a good thing. Like, what are we doing here, folks?
Yeah. So, we try to overthink it. Yeah. Analytics big time. I think one of the risers in this tournament for me anyway, and I never really heard about this kid till maybe a month ago, with Jay Rich's son, Jace Richardson, the rising kid in Michigan State. He's he's listed at 6'3". That worries me, but he's athletic. He can play that combo guard role in the NBA. He might be able to have a 10-year
He's got Kenyon's #1 criteria, man.
The bloodline. The bloodline. Yeah. Hey man, I mean, he's interesting. I think his brother's supposed to be better, but he is very interesting. Some of these prospects I'm feeling are overhyped, and he is one of them because of the height limitations, and the size limitations. But that's one where I think we might have to do a deeper dive down the road, closer to the combine. But he is interesting.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be mad if we picked him.
Yeah. I don't think I have to worry about if he's Sean Respert, guys. I think we're gonna be okay. Okay. Shout out to the Spartans. I'm surprised you didn't mention this guy, whose value's gone up. You kind of made a subtle hint to it, but I think his value has gone
You talking
gone
about
up a bit.
Queen?
All hail the Queen. Because I
All
think
hail the
he had,
Queen.
he had, before last night, he had the moment of the tournament.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
You can say he was packing his bags or not. The fact is, they counted it. Okay.
Hey man, he represented for Baltimore. And also, by the way, shout out to Angel Reese's brother, I believe,
Yep.
who's also a center on that team.
Yeah.
And he showed, that he too can rebound.
Yes, yeah, I know what they're feeding them in that Reese household there, but boy, they just go after it.
They do. So yes. By the way, just so people know, Hawkins, I believe, is Reese's cousin.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
Small world after all, as they say.
Yes. So
but
good for the family.
Queen, I thought was really showing like his skill set on how he could score in a multitude of ways, especially being marked as the number one guy. The double teams didn't seem to have phase him or anything like that. The defense wasn't atrocious or anything. It was middling at times, but it wasn't anything that jumped out my eyes like, what the heck are you doing type of thing. So I thought Queen overall, asserted himself well. And I think, it goes back to what we talked about, the combine, the measurements. I think that's the only thing kind of holding him back from his stock going higher is that what does it look like when you actually measure him?
Yeah, I mean, I just edited the Queen video just before Coach goes, president of the club, of course. So I'm gonna, give him the space. I give you, I will yield the floor actually, so Coach could retain his time. But you guys got it. But what I will say though is, in terms of Queen, I as I was editing the video, I might have been a little harsh or whatever. I still stand by everything that I say, and I'm happy with it, But I do think, yes, the defense is a concern, but I think some people get way too harsh, or like it's pile on time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, let's not make this overreaction, right? It's I think he'll be an interesting NBA prospect as well. For the Raptors, probably not the best big man, and I think actually Coach said that in the video, just not to give away too much, so people definitely check that out. But when it comes out, but at the same time, it's like that doesn't take anything away, and offensively, he is going to be. He might be king of the court at some points. So, Coach, I'm going to go to you. What are your thoughts on your man? And then then away we go. We'll continue on.
Well, I won't give the audience a rendition of God Save the Queen because that's not a thing anymore. But look, I think Queen throughout the season, he's showing a little bit of just what kind of offensive abilities that he has. So I'm looking at Florida, where they lost to, in 27 against them. Michigan in the Big Ten, I believe they're in. He had 31 against Michigan. That was he had the game winner against Colorado State. And I think he had 29. Sorry, he had another big game against a good team. I think it was Purdue. It was 26. Yeah, he had 26 against Purdue. Like, this guy was the top center freshman this year, I think, in the NCAA. But that doesn't always mean that he's going to translate to the right team in the NBA. I think it's going to be a team in which there's a good culture there. I think it's going to be a team that maybe is already really good defensively, but needs an offensive big who can maybe help run an offense. Maybe it's a big that already has a skill set that they need. So that's where I kind of see Queen particularly going in the draft. I still think for me, he's a top 8 to 10 pick for me.
What team do you have a team in mind?
I actually do, but that pick from Philly would have to go to OKC. I'd love to see him in OKC.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
They got Chet and Hartenstein already.
I think actually the other place I could see him going to, but they'll have to have a bad night on the ping pong balls, is Washington.
Yeah. Besides Tsar, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely some guys that are interesting. By the way, excuse the howling. There will occasionally be a neighbor dog that is having fun outside. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just I think to keep it moving from there, I think I will have to mention one guy that also didn't go very far in the tournament, but I think that the end of season was very well, and he had a strong showing this year. But I think it was, some people would say it's muted, and I think that that's my guy, Newell.
Pretty
Of
well in the
course
tournament, man.
he did against
Mhm.
Gonzaga in a loss though, but that's okay. Um, I just pulled up as we were talking earlier. I pulled up just his stats just to look at like basically how he ended the year, and he played I believe Cade's old team, Oklahoma, right before the Gonzaga game, and he had 21 points and 17 rebounds.
Yeah, it was
And
against Fears.
yeah, so
I
and
wish
he.
Kate played for way Sooners. No, he played for the arch nemesis.
Oh, am I getting the things
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he played
sorry.
for the
I
He
always
played for
mix
the
it up because I
Cowboys.
just see the name and it
Yeah,
doesn't give you the full thing. It's like Arizona versus Arizona.
yeah.
People
But
get
yeah, he
really
played for the Cowboys.
feisty
Yeah.
about that. Sorry,
Yeah.
Americans.
True. For all anybody, any folks with their alma mater is like, Cade's for the
Yeah, they're like,
enemy.
no, no, no. I didn't go to Arizona State. I went to Arizona.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, touche.
But
Yeah.
Newell had 20 against Auburn this year. That was on February 22nd
Mhm.
with two blocks, 3 3, 6 of 12 from the field. I,
Yeah.
I, I think there was a point in the year for me, I think it was around February 15th against the Missouri, and then his numbers just started to go up and up and up,
Yes.
particularly the scoring numbers. And then once he got to the tournament, the conference tournament, beyond Georgia, SEC, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Once he got there, 21 and 17 against Oklahoma, and like Kenyon said, 20 and 8 against Gonzaga.
Yep.
I think he was someone that built his stock up towards the end of the year. And the numbers show offensively, he makes a big difference for his team this year.
And he plays with a motor that will allow him to mix it up enough that I mean he was going to the line at least 4 times a night, and that's not nothing. Definitely not nothing. He showed himself to be a good rebounder. I think he demonstrated that he showed enough shooting touch from range for a developing big man that there might be something there. I still think he's a four. Definitely tune into that draft talk
Yeah.
video, but I think he's more of a four than a five. But he might be able to play five in spot minutes because he again measurement time. He's going to be at least 6'9", I think. And we'll see what gives. But to me, the biggest skill there that he showed throughout the year was his ability to really potentially, play defense. It didn't show up in the numbers, but if you actually did the eye test, he did show that he could switch a little bit, not just a little bit, but there was a couple possessions out there I saw where he was guarding like 3, 4 guys in one single possession. So yeah, it's very interesting prospect to me. I think moving along, we're running out of people until we get to the big dogs. So, is there anyone else that you want to talk about before we get to the big dogs? We could talk about Colin Murray Boyle really quickly right now, just really briefly if you want, or we could
Let's
leave that.
let's hold off on him. Actually,
Yeah, leave the powder dry. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, without a further ado, I mean, Duke played, Duke lost. Just get straight to the point, people. Sorry, they did, and they choked that game away. That is one of those things where if you went to the bathroom at the wrong time, came back, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's going on here? It's kind of like a Raptor game this past year, and as I would say to people, if you don't like that, you don't like basketball. But hey, I don't even know where to start with that Duke game because they should not have lost that.
That's where you
They
should start.
Yeah, that is where they have 10 guys. They have sorry, not 10 guys. They have 3 guys who will go in the top 10. More than likely.
Think
Now,
top 10? Wow. Okay, I think top 15, but top 10. Okay.
yeah, well, they could. I think that they could if the right team. Again, that OKC pick. If that Philly pick ends up being an OKC pick, it could be interesting. That's all.
Yeah.
So we'll see that. all things are decided by the ping pong balls.
True. Exactly. A12 people, it's what it's all about, man.
Yes,
Oh, by the
yes.
way, they won again today.
Oh, okay. They see, there you go. It's like, for example, that Phoenix pick, which could be a Rockets pick, right?
True.
Depending on where that goes, I don't know who the Rockets are picking.
No, no, yeah, teams like that, teams like that in a way could be very helpful
Yeah.
because they could be potential trading partners for you,
Hmm.
or they could pick. They have the luxury to pick for fit. So
Yeah,
like,
they do.
so you could be all right if you're a Raptors fan if some of those teams get ahead of you. Not all of them, but some of them.
No, yeah, yeah. And also, I just randomly seeing that I didn't know that Minnesota had Detroit's pick this year. That's interesting. It's not a good pick. It's not, or not that it's not a good pick, but it's
I
not the
can't think.
greatest
I think
pick.
that came out the Beasley deal. I think.
Ah, that makes sense.
I think.
But yeah, so I think, I don't, I'll let you guys talk about it because, Coach, obviously, I want to get your opinion. Is watching that. We talked it last night, just so people know, full disclosure. We pre-watched the game, as they say. So yeah, we watched the game and we all talked after, and there's a lot of comments about coaching and players and stuff like that. So, Coach, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Beyond, and I'll kind of, put it all together at the end there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on both the first and the second half of that game, even from just a strategy standpoint and whatnot?
Well, in the first half, they played. There's two sides of what I'm going to say to young players. Young players can really, with their energy, can really set a game up for you in terms of getting up and down the court, making big shots, really getting the team hype. And I thought that Cooper Flag and Con Knipple, those are the two main young players I can reference because those are the only two young players I can reference in that game. Positive note. They really kept this team afloat all game, but particularly in the first half, helped give them that lead with Con Knippel's ability to space the floor, his ability to get open, Cooper Flag being Cooper Flag, taking this guy off the dribble to the hoop, angling his body, spotting up in the corner for threes. That was really promising for Duke in the first half. And then it got to the second half, and they couldn't execute well. When I say not specifically them, but that young mentality kind of reared its ugly head. And that's what I kind of noticed towards the end of the game. I think basically with about the first 30 minutes of the game, Duke was playing their basketball. In the last 10 minutes of the game, Houston played their basketball, which is really the grit and grind, try to slow everything down, try to get in your face, not to allow you to execute your offense. And I just think I credit Calvin Sampson and that Houston team for just staying focused and really trying like not to give up because they were down like 15 with what 10 minutes to go roughly
Less than that.
less than that. And college basketball is at the NBA. There's not a ton of threes being launched, even though now there is more than ever in college basketball, but it's not to the level that you would see in an NBA game in terms of makes or misses. But I think Tyrese Proctor, quite honestly, for Duke, did not show up. I think he had 8 points that game. Sorry, he had 7 points. He was 2 of 8 from the field. Malwatch, 1 of 2 from the field goal. Come on. You're going to be a top 10 pick or top 7 pick or top 4 pick. Some have him as 4. I don't blame them for their uh
And some have them as two, to be honest.
yeah, for their take on that. But you know, it was a tough night for Malwatch. That's for sure in terms of mismatches. So I do think it was Flag and Knipple, but I think Jay Williams made the point at the end of the game about try and inbound the ball, and you can't inbound the ball. And they've seen this over and over again from Duke during the season, and it reared its ugly head again in the Final Four. That is kind of what I meant last night, kind of speaking to you guys a little bit. When you have 18-year-olds who are leading you, which is a great thing, there's a difference when you're playing against 22 and 23-year-olds. Many of them are on Houston. So,
Yeah, and you also have to make a decision early on whether or not you're going to be in or out on trusting them. Like you can't have a half type of a mentality there. Like you really,
yeah,
if you trust the guys, you got to stick with the guys that got you there, or make a decision and
yeah.
make it early. And to be
And
honest, as a vet, more as a, I mean, that's I don't believe that that's his first rodeo. So you gotta do a better job there.
And John Shire needs to be better, but I'll leave that for beyond because I know we probably get some good takes on that.
Well, take it
Thank you,
away.
sir. Yeah, I agree with a lot what Coach said. But I still, what's the old saying? Harry Truman said, "The buck stops with me." John Shire's the coach, man. He assembled this talent on paper. This team is by far the most talented team in the tournament. They're probably the prohibitive favorite to win this. I don't care if you got my 8-year-old or a bunch of other little kids in the park. If you're up 7 points with less than 1 minute and 30 seconds, I think it's 1 minute and 27 seconds, you should win that game. You have the best player in the nation on your team. To Kenya's point, he's even going as high as the top 10, 3 top 10 picks. I'm sorry. At some point, man, you got to execute. There's no way you should have, I think, 1 field goal in the last 8 minutes of the game. I think it was a Cooper flag 3. At that point there, it's nothing to do about who's young and who's old. It's like you're not executing, getting guys in the right spots to actually get shots off that guys can make shots.
And you remember I asked you, I said, is this guy outsmarting himself? Because sometimes it's like,
yes,
like we were talking about this where it's like, I'm not even going to make a Raptors reference, but sometimes I see coaches, it's like, why don't you just do the simple thing? If a guy is struggling, get him is a spot in a comfort zone. You get him going in a comfort zone, right? Like I know a lot of people say Dwayne Casey apparently wasn't good at developing. I don't know about that. I thought he was okay. But like the one thing that I remember is Dwayne Casey. It's like, okay, let's get JV going at the beginning of each quarter. Get him some points. Let the big man eat. Keep him happy. Like just certain simple principles. I'm not saying that you got to go old school with it all the way, but if it's not working, then like is a Cooper flag 3, as much as he has improved in that way and in that manner, is that the best shot that they could have gotten?
Well, I think this is what I'm talking about. When Coach mentioned this, I kept thinking to myself, like, you hear the old phrase in this case,
I just want to say I'm not against Cooper flag taking the shot.
No, it's not that, but it goes down the philosophy of what we're talking about. It's like go with the girl, the one that brung you, dance with the one that brung you, right? In other words, that's your best player. Put the ball in his hands. Why is Sears out here with the ball making decisions late in games? I got to sit here and ask myself that question. I have to ask my question with less than 5 minutes left to go. I'm sitting with my buddy, Mr. Duke, and I'm going to him. I hear the whistle go. And I'm sitting there going, Brown picks up his 4th foul. I'm like, ooh, I see the substitution for Malawatch. I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to open it up for those 3 guards, and lo and behold, all of a sudden we are getting mismatches, and everyone's running around the place with their head cut off, and all of a sudden 3-point shots are opening up all over the place. Guys are getting in foul trouble because Malawatch, quite honestly, and it's for the folks at home in this case, and you understand what I was about to say today. Here's what I'm trying to say. Malawatch in this case here, at this point in his career, everybody's worried about the offense. Quite honestly, I'm not concerned about Malawatch offensively in the NBA, right? What we saw last night is the concern you have to have moving forward in the NBA. Can he deal with the perimeter? Now, this is the reason why our friend of the pod, our man Tyler, who has never been a Malawatch fan, and I gotta give him his due. Sometimes my dad said you gotta give Jack his jacket.
Furthest way from Malawatch Island.
Right. The reason why he's always had that nagging feeling about Malawatch was the very reason we saw last night. The inability to actually guard in the perimeter when the switches happen. All right. Another thing, and to be honest with you, I get it. You're 7'2", 260. Fine. You don't move. To quote my man Raftery, the puppies don't move that quickly. I get it. No problem. That's fine. What I can't get past, though, and you mentioned it last night, Kenyon, and I was sitting there wondering, it's like when they're going to call it. They let him get away with it a few times. But you got to be bigger than what you are when you're trying to box out. You're dealing with 6'9" dudes, and you're out here trying to climb their back. Why are we doing this? Like,
yeah, you got to learn how to swim into spots.
Right, and play to your full potential.
It's like basketball jiu-jitsu in a sense.
You're at like a 6'6" guard out here trying to jump over guys' back, and you got away with it about 2-3 times in the second half, and they finally say, you know what?
Yeah, because they can call that, and it's not it's not putting himself in a good position to get the rebound.
They could call it all night if they wanted to, and they let some slide because heck, you've been fouled out probably by about the 10-minute mark. So it's like you gotta be better than that, man.
Now I
So
know some people think that he has small hands. I don't know if he has small hands or not. But what I will say is that if he puts himself in a better position and then rips it down, I mean, if you compare how he rebounds versus Cooper Flagg sometimes, how he's ripping down a rebound and just
right,
you know,
Forrest, as you said last night,
just
exactly.
giving the
Get
ball,
off me.
right? Like
Right. There's a physicality that I
there's
think I'm concerned a little bit about with Malawak. That as big as he is, it's like a little bit of a light touch in this case here when it comes to his size. It's like you got to play that way, right? Like for example, we talked about and I'm not
there's
saying
a four-letter word that starts with S that comes to mind, and I'm not gonna apply it to him, but you worry, and
yeah,
it does end in two actually.
yeah. And I'm sitting there going like. It's like look, man. At some point, you gotta play with a little more force than what you're dealing with
Yeah,
here. And there's guys that we've talked about that we talked about just now, just recently. There are smaller players than him, but play bigger than what they are. That we're even questioning it. We're questioning maybe they are that size, maybe they're not, but they seem like they play that way. Versus
yeah.
him, who's legitimately 7'2" and plays like he's 6'8".
Now the rebounding thing is something that I've noticed for a while, so this isn't just a one game thing. It's
No,
not. It's not. I've had to have people talk me into Malawatch a little bit, to be honest. And and they know that, right? You guys know that. It's like I've had to be talked into him a little bit. I haven't been off Malawatch Island per se, but it's just in terms of at the top four, I have to be talked into it, and I'm not entirely against it from a Raptor standpoint, but listen, I think he has some skills there. I do want to say, like, for example, his shooting touch yesterday was pretty good.
yeah,
And he shot the ball well from the free throw line, like those are the type of things that will keep him on the floor. But we had it in our discussion where we talked to the juxtaposition between him and Lively, where it's like you would think that Malawatch, who's actually bigger than Lively, both girth-wise as well as height-wise, would be better defensively, and he's not. He's actually and I think we talked about it with Queen. He's much better and more effective offensively than people give him credit for. But it's the
exactly.
defensive end. But if you're drafting him for defense and he doesn't have that foot speed, then he has to have that positioning. And I don't know if he quite has that positioning. Part of that is, yes, he started basketball recently, but not everyone's Siakam.
Right. Well, I mean that goes without question. But and I want to say this too.
I
Like,
mean, in terms of,
yeah, but I also blame the
getting
coach
there.
in this case and not putting his players in the
Uh-huh.
right positions, right? Because I'm going to get to the next
Yes.
guy, right? So for all the Con fans out here, all right, that was like a swinging gate or a fence last night, man. They were looking at barbecue chicken every time they saw him.
Yeah.
One time in this case, the kid Luzanne in this case made a mistake. He actually had Knipple on him and put the pick out there, and he got the flag on him. He's like, "Oh, I got this pterodactyl on me. Let me kick this back out the 3-point line. Screw this." It's like, yeah, that was not a wise business decision. You had the better matchup, and all night
Yes.
they're going after Knipple on the perimeter. As great as he is offensively, I think he's more. I think he's got some ability not only just to shoot the three. I think he's pretty good off the bounce in the right matchups, but defensively, it was rough.
And
It was rough.
before I kick it back to Coach, I do think it's important that people know it's like, we're giving it to Con as well, right? Like it's not just like, oh, don't like Malwatch, but no, I try to give equal rights here.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know.
there's
For
a
my
car
friends
for
that
everyone.
want him as a Raptor, like I don't know why. Because if we were giving up 140 right now, we'd be
We're
giving up
talking about Con,
160.
by the way, folks.
Yeah, Con. Like, what are we doing that for?
Like at some point, yes, we have talked about the importance of offense, but defense is important as well, and defense does win championships. And our last championship was won in a huge part because of defense and being able to stick through those storms so that you can then let your offense, ride through.
We were historically one of the best defensive teams ever in the postseason.
Yep, second to only I think Detroit.
Yeah.
And if you actually match up the numbers and for per 100 possessions for across eras, it's arguable that we might have even been better
Yeah.
potentially.
Now,
So, but
let
yeah,
me
that's
say
it.
one thing about my
For another
man
day.
here, man. Let me say one thing about my man.
Con?
Look, folks. No, I moved on from Con, man. Let me get to my man, man. Let me salute here for a second. All right. let me tell you something. For folks out here dreaming in Technicolor about certain individuals on this current Raptors team, And when I say in this case here, I'm looking for someone in this case for a certain ceiling that could potentially be the best player on the floor for a championship level team. What you saw last night, even the loss, what I saw was a guy playing on both ends of the court with a frenetic pace and mindset and a ferocity that is lacking on this team. This is the reason why I played for May 12th. I don't know who you pray to, where you pray to, get on that job. Because May 12th, that's what I'm talking about right here, man. That's what we saw last night. When in this case here, he's hitting threes on one end, and he's cleaning up the mess for his buddies on the other end with that swat. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, yo, dude. And he wasn't in the I know they would say, well, you missed the shot at the end. It's not the point.
I was going to get to that at
it's
the
the
end
mindset that all year he's missed some shots down the stretch. It's the mindset. It's like, yo, dude, there's no doubt where this ball's going. Right?
Hey, man,
like,
he's willing to take it.
Exactly.
And he gets the ball at the end, and there's not looking around to give a grenade
but this goes back to someone else. Our friend Tyler mentioned this too, the supercomputer, right? And we comped him to somebody else. Early in the season, he would get too deep, and he would create travels or turnovers in some form or fashion. He's already adjusted to that now, where now he's now introduced the turnaround jumper that Coach mentioned offline we were talking about, where it's like, okay, I know what they want to do when I get here. He's already made the adjustment, and he got off a pretty damn good shot. It is a make or miss league, as they say. But the fact that he was ready to play for prime time throughout this tournament, it's like, yo, my man Love from UNC that went down to Arizona, he was out here ready to show what he could do because he know he can show up in this case in tournament time. And my man's at Flag saying, oh, no, this ain't going to be your show today, fellas. I'm going to be right there with you. You need a mentality like that where it's like, okay, this man's about to drop 30 on us. I'm going to make sure we got 30 on this side to keep him at bay. We don't have a personality like that right now on this team. That's the reason why I prayed to the basketball gods for May 12th.
Yes. And at Mount Verde, I'll also ask, because I'll also add this, is that at Mount Verde, he was the dude. There's no
on the team
debate. It was the flag show.
Right.
It was his show.
Was it two other guys gonna make the top?
There wasn't some other, this or that. No, it was him.
Queen, Newell, McNeely, and Wright played at Baylor.
Yeah.
That's a stacked team.
Three of those four guys we just discussed 5 to 10 minutes ago. They're going to be probably top 15 picks, guys.
But he was.
I think 4 of them will be. McNeely probably
dude.
will be too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's the guy.
Yeah,
I'm not putting LeBron or Wemby in this conversation because they didn't play college in the U.S. LeBron's high school, Wemby's overseas. But
Coach, you know what he ended the year on? Shooting from deep? Don't look it up. Just guess.
36, 37?
38.
38%, yeah. But I'm just thinking of some of these guys, the one-and-done guys. He's right there with, like, Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony. Like, these were awesome guys who played college basketball and won. And Melo's going in the Hall of Fame. And Flag might have a chance to be better than both of them. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, this idea that we're sitting there, I mean, I'm not going to get too much into the
don't get into it right now.
But it's like
we're having a good discussion, my friend.
Yeah, it is actually some of the discussion some folks are having out there about about time when it comes to how long we wait for things to come to fruition. Dude, as I say to you guys all the time, it didn't take Barry Gordy more than 10 seconds to realize Michael Jackson was a star. Okay, like, it's something you just know. The moment Stevie Wonder blues harmonicas, like, yeah, this kid can play. We're good. It's certain things you just know. Okay, like, folks, we don't have to wait around. The moment you look around here, Richard Williams says that you think the older one's pretty good. Wait till you see the younger one. you just know. Okay, you just know. And those two were stars the moment you saw them. It's like, yeah, these kids are gonna be superstars. This idea, for folks that don't know, Tiger Woods' dad had him on the Merv Griffin show. Merv Griffin was like pretty much like Colbert or any of the talk shows like Jimmy Fallon. At like 5 years old, hitting balls better than I can't hit right now off a tee clean as a whistle. Okay?
I think he was in Sports Illustrated as well as like a five-year-old kid.
Right. You just know.
Which, by the way, when people say, like, I remember someone mentioned like one of the best like prospects of all time. They were talking about it just of all sports, and I can't remember even who they mentioned. I was like, you wouldn't even mention Tiger? I was like, that's crazy. I was like, I don't think people realize how good Tiger was as a kid. I play golf, yes, here or there for sure. But like, even if you don't, it's like you gotta come on now.
When you're a star, you know it. All right. Wayne Gretzky is like about 150 pounds, barely soaking wet. He's a 17-year-old playing against grown-ass men and was dealing with them in the World Hockey League. We know. We don't have to wait 4 years, 5 years, 8 years. All right. I have to wait that long to figure out Michael Jackson.
Tiger went to Stanford, right? I think.
Yeah, and he won everything in college in Stanford. Exactly. So all I'm saying is, with Cooper Flag,
Well, I think Beyond's talking a lot about, too, about the mentality of a guy. And when we had Gannon Baker on the show, I kind of asked him, like, what separates the greats from the good players? And he said, greatness resides in toughness, the acronym, right? I get that impression from Flag that he wants to be great, and that's going to take sacrifice. So that is, really dedicating your craft to basketball and the little things that you might do in your life you don't do as much. You don't play video games as much, or you don't, go out and partake in parties. And all that will be thrown at him. But the great ones, even though if they're able to do it, a lot of them are able to separate that as well. Kobe was able to separate that quite well for the most part in his career. Maybe when he was younger, it wasn't quite that extent, but once he got older, though, it was business.
I just want to say one thing, just as an example. So, to kind of tie it all together, back to Tiger really quickly, and then zoom back to basketball. Tiger turned pro in '96. Okay, '97 he won the Masters. Boom, done.
Right. We're not waiting around to figure out if he's going to be good.
He came on scene and took over.
Right.
It's done. So that's it. So
people try to make this complex. It's not.
No, and it shouldn't need to be complex. So I mean, we've always talked about Evel Knievel type stuff here. You don't have to always do some high wire, do a flip and a thing, and set the motorcycle on fire. You don't have to do all that.
You, sir.
So yes, people who think there are people that think that if Cooper Flag was on the Raptors that he'd be coming off the bench. Let me tell you something, he would not be. I will leave it
what?
Yes. The fact that if I say that people would get fired because Cooper Flag would be coming off the bench, people can take umbrage with that. No, go watch Cooper Flag and check yourself.
LeBron had a triple-double the first night against Sacramento when he debuted, right?
That was a crazy game.
That's right. I just want to say that. Okay, just want to make that clear.
It's a crazy game. So, yeah. And we'll see. Obviously, he has to get into the NBA. Yes, blah, blah, blah. There's obvious statements to be made. But, I'm just saying, if he does well, don't be so shocked. That's all.
May 12th, people. May 12th.
Coach, you take it away from there. No,
he's probably the most ready NBA prospect. I'm not going to say he's going to be on the level of LeBron or Wemby. When I'm more LeBron, that's just a lot to put on a kid right away. Let's see it play out. But who's the most ready number one pick? He's in that category with LeBron. I think he is. I'm not saying he's going to be that generational ability.
I think considering his age is the part I think, because right now I would say the most ready I've ever seen in my lifetime would be Tim Duncan.
18 years old. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But Tim Duncan was a 4-year.
That's my point. Right. That's my point. Is for someone at this age to be even in the discussion. That's the point. Is because Tim Duncan was he could have gone any year he wanted to. He just wanted to play. Tim Duncan.
Sounds like him.
Yeah. It's every year they ask the question, is this the year he leaves? No, I'm good.
There's a reason why we've had 7 or 8 teams just tanking this year, which has been pitiful basketball to watch, especially if you're a Raptors fan the last month or so and you're trying to watch it and you want the team to win. I'm just saying from the average fan that goes to the game, not so much us who's like, hey, that Flag guy's pretty good. But if you're just watching the team, it's tough if you're a fan base. I can imagine it must be tough in Washington or in Philly. Nick Nurse doing a better job than Dark with tanking this year. It's just funny. Or Charlotte or New Orleans and stuff there's a reason they're doing this. I hate that they're doing it, but I get it.
Yep. The move he made last night where he crossed over that guy in the wing and the man almost broke his ankle. And then he had to come back and they had to hack him to get the foul. This kid's oh my gosh. I told my buddy.
Look at how he finishes through contact with grace. You see the one he got hit in the head. conked on the head, and he like flips it up,
Look at
and
an
it ain't
unbelievable
flip it all, go off the backboard and set it
Yeah.
to the third row. No, it was like in. It was in.
That's why he tweeted out flag is unreal.
And then on that one, by the way, he wasn't all like, right? Like he was just, like he's like, all right, let's go.
He shot that
Let's
blind
get
behind the net, man. Somehow
my
found a way to
gosh.
kiss that off the glass. Like, oh my gosh.
That's why I tweeted out he's already better than half the league. I know LeBron made that famous comment about Bron. I actually think that flag is actually could be better than half the league, legit. So
Yes. So yeah,
Bronny's putting out 20 a night in the G League right now. Hold on. He might be a
hey, I like Bronny. I like Bronny. You
Yeah.
guys know that I do.
I'll tell you one thing. Sorry, Bronny, but Cooper is not joining you in the G League.
No.
So yeah, I think that's like overall. I just to kind of quickly go back to Malawatch again, just to provide a bit more if people didn't feel like we provided enough balance. I think that he's going to be a fine pick. I think he might be there at pick 8. I do think that his draft stock for some. I know some people are like, well, one game shouldn't affect. Well, it shouldn't, but like the Suns admitted that they don't draft and they don't scout and they don't spend money on that right before the last guy took over. It's a Iger or whatever.
Oh no, you're talking about
or Ishvia. Sorry, Ishvia.
Ishvia,
Yeah. So it's like at that point, it's like don't tell me like that type of stuff because you would be surprised. People, yes, there are some people that work in an NBA office and do not scout. I'm not saying all, but I do saying that it does happen. So these little tournament things do impact things. They definitely do. So
Look, I want to put on record because we didn't do a podcast. You did it solo in this case.
Yeah, I did.
Right now.
I thought I was fair.
No,
I don't know if you guys saw.
Yeah,
but
I think in this case here, he could be the first year. I'll be people shocked when I say this. I think he could average a double the first year. I have no doubt that I think they have the right team, the right offense. He could get a double because he's a very good free throw shooter. He'll get fouled and he's going to get at least about 2-3 dunks a night. And that alone will get him close to 10 points. And, I think just for the size alone, he'd get rebounds in this case in the NBA. I think there's the subtle parts that we're discussing here when it's like, okay, how much room he has to grow to actually become a winning type player from the standpoint of trying to win real games like 50-plus win teams and championship level teams.
That's
where
debate.
How far can he get in that phase of his development in this case. And as I said before, from a drafting perspective, I wouldn't draft him in the top 4 players.
And that's where I think, from a Raptors perspective, I don't think that he'll have that chance. But Coach, you were going to say?
Is his floor? I'm just thinking of the shot blocking. He's not a good rebounder, and this guy in the NBA is neither. But they're around the same size, oddly enough. Is his floor Miles Turner? Someone
said that to me the other day. Actually, I'll give the person a shout. Shout out Harleen. Ironic.
Shout out Harleen.
Yeah. So, but
Turner's not a good rebounder. He's a shot blocker. Now, I don't know if Malawatch could be like that 3-point threat that Turner is.
Turner wasn't quite like that when he came out.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, because she made me think about it. Because I was just she put out the comment when people toss it out. I started thinking. I remember Turner in his first year against us via JV in the playoffs. And he was not the player that he is now. So Turner wasn't interesting because it's like, is he a longer Turner? I don't know. That's a good question. Turner, I think, had the foot speed, I think, a little bit more, but he has the length.
Yeah. I mean, Turner's good at the rim, defending the rim. Is he good on the perimeter?
Not really.
No. He ain't Anthony Davis. Let's put it that way.
No, he's not.
No.
So,
but let's not put that on Malawatch either.
No. It's partially,
it is like a fascinating comp because it's not as far off as people may think of it. Because like you said before, Turner was not that type of jump shooting big that we think of today. He actually got forced to be in more of that position when Sabonis came along.
Yes.
He was forced out of survival. That he had to shoot the three. It's like, you want minutes? You got to shoot that jump shot because Sabonis going to be mind the man to paint.
Yes. Because he used to be a pretty big beast in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
And then that his whole game changed. So it's an interesting thing. And also, I'll say my challenge with Malawatch is while he has moments where he has flashed good passes randomly here and there, he is not a playmaker right now. He is not. That's not something that I would attribute to his game. Turner is not a good playmaker. So there is that. If you want to really take it to its conclusion, so it's an interesting one, and I think if you're patient with a guy like Malawach, he could be very interesting, but you have to be patient. That's my only thing. I think to really see that full potential, because if people are talking about fit, quote unquote, the fit for the Raptors, and you're looking at the first year of the Raptors, just from an offensive standpoint, he is not the best fit. Offensively, I don't think so.
Offensively, no, but I think he could potentially shore up the things that you don't have that you're going to need. That's how I kind of
Yes.
view Malawach. Like, I'm just looking against Alabama, he had 14 points and 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. Like, he didn't play well against Houston. Everybody knows that.
Okay.
The Houston game, to me, it wasn't a huge shock to me. Like, they needed to play well. I mean, if he plays well, they win.
Yeah.
Let's just call it. He plays well, they win. But he didn't play well, and there's just some developmental things that he definitely has to work on. To me, that wasn't like a huge, like, where did this come from? That kind of thing. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Beyond, you were saying something.
No, I'm just gonna say two things. First thing, I think Duke was deep enough; they didn't need him to play in this case. He gets sat beside the coach for the rest of the game. They probably end up winning the game by 8 points, right? Like, but this is one of these things where, and I respect in this case. In some ways, I do respect it because I can't be a hypocrite. Dance with the one that brung you. So he went with the philosophy. Dance with the one that brung you. That's his man. He went with him late. Fair enough. We see it in baseball all the time. A pitcher in this case ain't the right matchup, but that's your closer. You know how it's going to go down, but you say, that's my guy. I'm going down with him.
Right till the wheels fall off.
Exactly. That's Oakland A's with Dennis Eckersley with the Blue Jays.
Right.
He determines, like, that's our guy. You're going to pay the price, though. He paid the price. Sorry, Tony La Russa paid the price.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. Just because Malawach's draft stock amongst many people was starting to rise in the tournament before last night. If he had a good game last night, let's just say he had a similar game to the way he played against Alabama, would there be talk about him in that top 4 category or top 3 category? Yes. I think there would be.
Yes, because the thing he has an advantage is always the size. The size is never going to have him going any lower than probably 8 because the size is like, he's 7'2", 260. As the old saying goes, you can't coach that. Second point I was going to make, actually, back to your thing about fitting with the Raptors. I'm not so sure he actually want to be a good fit offensively for the Raptors because I think the way that Darko plays his offense is more closer to what he's used to playing with his national team. And I think he will get a lot of opportunities to just knock down jump shots.
From that perspective, I agree.
Like that pick and pop scenario.
But he can't be giving him Pirtle reps where he's like expecting him to make the right reads and stuff like that.
No, that part, no. But if he's playing with a second unit where all he's just picking and popping as a release valve, I can see that.
Like my issue with him on the Raptors from a fit standpoint is Darko going to do the whole, am I going to have to hear people say, well, Darko's really just giving him the hardest thing to really, sink or swim.
I hear what you're saying.
I don't want to sink or swim this kid.
But here's the thing. I would say this. If, in some strange way, if he did it with him compared to trying to do it with Precious Achiuwa, I'll live with it. Right? Because if you're willing to do it Precious Achiuwa, then you're damn well willing to do it with anybody. There's no need to have the discussion. He's going to do it. Because he took a man like Precious Achiuwa and
said, "Can you just take Precious reps and just give him to Grady or Jacoby?" He ain't
doing that, man. I told you.
Anyone else?
He is a structured man. Bigs in his offense do this. Guards in his offense do this. That is all it is. And the tween shall not come between them. That's it. So when it's all said and done, when you're going to tell me Precious Achiuwa should be a decision maker of any sort, that means you will try anybody at that position in this case here once they're over
to fit that. Yeah.
If the biggest beneficiary, honestly, to Malawach being drafted, to Kenyon's point on offense, or I think it was beyond maybe, Grady Dick could be the biggest beneficiary to a guy like Malawach on this team. The way how big he is in setting screens, we know Pirtle's good at setting screens. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a guy. If Grady plays a lot next year with Malawach, let's just say for the argument that Malawach is drafted, Grady could average maybe 18 to 20 points a game. There's a world where that could happen. In my opinion.
Yes.
And if the shot blocking prowess translates, that's another way where a guy like Grady, if he gets beats out the dribble, he's got a little more margin for error.
And Jacoby can benefit as well.
Oh, yes. I was just about to say, not just him, any of these guys on the perimeter, right? Like, you think Shed's aggressive now? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Here's my counter to that: is I agree for all the bench guys, Malawach would be great because he will help them in a lot of ways to clean up, and they don't really have a cleanup crew back there. It's Mobo, and Mobo, like you can't teach height. So no shade, by the way, just you can't teach height. So great. My issue, starting lineup. If Pirtle comes out and Malawach is inserted, and you're trying to run offense with some sort of variation of Quickly, Barnes, and Ingram, the only person that I really trust on a regular basis personally to really operate in that way is probably the guy that when he first came here said, yeah, I really want to play with Pirtle because he sets good screens.
Yeah, but I think you got to look at the standpoint is like, okay, you're thinking about what he can't do, but you're not thinking about what he can do. For example,
it's not about him. It's not about him. It's about the other guys.
Yeah, but the other guys now have a rim runner, right? When Quickly comes off that curl now, instead of trying to do the typical bounce pass for the little shovel pass for Pirtle, he now has a guy in this game you just throw up top and just go and dunk it.
Can quickly change that tendency. Like, okay, here's a good example. Scotty playing Scotty in a pick and roll situation, running the pick and roll, and he runs it with Malawach. And Malawach can't consistently pop enough to really, do whatever, right? That's going to hurt because right now, at least how he's viewed by the league, whether you're in or out on it, Scotty is not being respected by defenses.
Yeah, but okay, but I kind of pushing back on your actual premise because Scotty doesn't even run pick and roll at Pirtle as we speak.
So
why worry about Malawach?
That's true, but that is true.
Because you're very point.
But
to be fair to Darko, that's the reason why he doesn't run it.
Well, that's true because like by the numbers, like at one point, I don't know what the numbers are this year, but at one point, Scotty was one of the better pick and roll operators, but it was on low sample size, I think, on the grand scheme of things. So I just don't know. But like say they do that. Like that's you see where my concern is.
I see your concern, but
what is the plan? What is the strategy going forward next year?
Once again, the structure part, you got to think like in the world of Darko. The only person that gets to run pick and roll on this team is the 1-5 pick and roll. That is the only pick and roll that gets run on this team. 1-5 pick and roll. That's it.
That's true.
It doesn't matter if I have two guys in this case who are very capable of potentially handling the ball and making passes. They're 6'8" or 6'9", and the strength of my team. I refuse to run pick and roll with them. Even though one time we did it, we actually won a game because the guy was wide open.
Yeah.
One of the two guys was wide open as the recipient. But we don't do that. So you never saw Siakam, Scotty Barnes pick and rolls because he does not.
Like even the way that the best way to make it work is, Ingram Barnes pick and roll, not like he. You're right. Darko always tries to run it with a big and a small.
That's all he does.
And that's not the way to do it.
It's Dark, right? Let me put it to you.
The big people.
Exactly. If you had Darko running the Lakers right now, Darko will be running pick and roll with Austin Reeves and insert center. Screw that LeBron's the best pick and roll player of all time, and Luke is probably like second. But we won't do
Jackson
that.
Hayes,
We're gonna run Austin Reeves, and Gabe Vincent with the big. That's what you do, and have them sitting out there shooting jump shots. That's how he thinks.
Yeah. From that perspective, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. I think that's fair. Yeah.
So from that standpoint,
well, you understand my concern.
I understand your concern, but he's not running it with Scotty. He's running with IQ and Shed.
Yeah. Is that yeah? Okay. I do not yield. but
you made the point earlier though.
Yeah.
You can't play Malawach on offense similar to Pirtle. I don't think that's. No. Derik Queen, you draft Derik Queen, you could do that with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, for sure. But like what we don't know, the question we don't know, and basically, and you're always in this, coach, I'll leave this to you, but the free throw form is like immaculate. Like he shoots like 80 plus, he shoots like 80% from the free throw line. So
it's like Valanciunas that way. Valanciunas was a good free throw shooter for most of his career. I think he still is.
Yeah, right, for sure. But like that form, we've seen it in the national thing where they let him shoot the jump shot. So it's not foreign. So it's something where it's like Darko who lets everyone do whatever the hell they want.
And he has a good foundation to start from.
So if he gets the opportunity to knock down a few 17-foot jump shots, I'm not saying he's gonna be next coming at Serge Ibaka, but like if that's a starting point, like okay.
He might be Serge Ibaka though down the road.
I agree, right? But if he's able to do that plus to do the rim running, because Ibaka once again, Ibaka didn't start knocking out jump shot, folks. He was a rim runner. That's what he was in early OKC.
Yep. Yeah. But the South Sudan team gives you more hope that translation to his NBA game. But you have to go play at a good program like Duke, I think, to help get the exposure, but also just get used to playing in that atmosphere all the time. I think that's really good for a young player, especially someone who never grew up in the U.S. Like you're going to like the mecca of college basketball. And it pains me to say that because I'm not a Duke fan, but you are going to like one of the prized programs of college basketball. I know.
And also to learn certain fundamentals as well. So I think he's going into the NBA with a good base. He ends up as a Raptor. I am not upset. Trust me, people. You won't hear that kind of stream. There ain't going to be no live stream like that. We're usually pretty happy about the prospects over here. But what I will say is that, like, I think what I will say is that I'm still hoping for a top 4 pick.
Yeah.
That's all.
I know for sure. And I think my only concern with Malawach is he's the first guy, at least I've discussed, of like quote top 10 guys, where the mentality is of something you gotta worry about a little bit. All the other guys I don't have that concern with. I don't concern about their mortar. I don't concern about their kind of
you think he gets shaken a bit?
I think
or is it because of the lack of like the boxing out thing and how
I think there's there's an intensity factor I'm concerned about a little bit, because like you at some points, man, hey man, all the chips on the table, man. You need to be out here clearing out the furniture. You can't be out here just kind of just like tiptoeing around guys. You're the biggest guy on the floor, and at least with any of the other prospects we talk about, even my man from BYU, I can't really say that about. That I think that was the part more so than any of the physical gifts. That's the part is always toughest to change more than any physical thing. If a guy has a bad jump shot, you can work on that. Guy in this case doesn't dribble well, you can work on that. Post play, footwork, you can work on those things. Between the ears, or in here, those are much tougher to deal with.
You just gotta. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'll be telling you. Basketball rewind.
I'm not condoning violence, people.
Darko would need stepladder to do that.
He would be. Hey, he can jump when he's angry.
I mean, Darko's gonna give him pizza, man. Say he's gonna be all good, man. Come on now.
It's true.
It's true. So yeah. Don't worry, people. We don't. I actually do think that Darko has improved. I think we all have said that. So we're not like the anti-Darko thing. It's just at this point he's just a dude. So yeah.
Hey man, I'll put it this way. I'll say you all think he's improved. I'll be one on the island say I don't think he's improved that much. So
listen, if the bar is that low, he's improved.
Hey, I've said he's good at threading the needle of balancing, winning, and losing. That's about the extent of what I'm going to.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we got the 7th pick right now.
That is threading the needle. Down the fairway. So I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Basketball Rewind. It's been fun having this conversation. We talked about a lot of stuff. For those of you who said that you were unhappy about the solo podcast, hey, we just did a full Malawach hour practically. So
Malawach all day, all night.
So there you go. For that reason, we are probably do stay tuned, do like, comment, and subscribe. But we are probably not going to cover Malawach to this extent again for a little bit of time unless we draft him. So that's about that. And take care, people. Peace. And it's summertime, so get out there, touch some grass. Stay safe.